Welcome. I'm gonna start this off with a guy by the name of Aaron Russo. He was a guy that got woke. Well, he's always been woke, but he just didn't agree with a lot of plans that's been in place now that you can actually see what's going on today. And I don't know how old this video is, but I'm thinking he'll say something 2000 something. Did that. There we go. Let me go ahead and start it back over.
If you take a frog and drop him into a pot of boiling water, he'll jump right out. But if you take that same frog and put him in a pot of cold water and slowly turn the heat up, he'll sit in that pot of water, lulled into complacency, until he boils to death. Ladies and gentlemen, we are that frog. And the water's beginning to boil.
That's a good comparison.
Did you hear we're being fitted for National ID card? And it will be digitally encoded with the retina pattern of your eye or with your fingerprint. And every American will be required to carry one. Required is another word for forced. According to this bill, come 1999, all employers will be required to receive authorization from the federal government before hiring any new employee. The social planners are forcing you to get their permission before you can hire anybody. And your name has to be on their database to even get a job. Do you want your name on their database? They'll tell you from here to doomsday. They're defending your liberties. They're lying! Don't listen to what they say. But pay very close attention to what they do. Thomas Jefferson said, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. Well, how many of you have been vigilant? Or do you do whatever the government dictates and just accept it? Freedom is something you have to fight for. It's not automatic. In the history of the world, America has come the closest to being a free country. Let's not blow it. fellow members of the House of Representatives to destroy the Fourth Amendment by passing H.R. 666. Do you know this bill will allow the government to invade your home without a search warrant? Congress and the President have no authority to ignore the Constitution, but they're doing it. The major media never reported this. Why? Free press, please. It's a controlled press. And what they don't tell you is costing you your freedom. Music? Never mind. I'm on a roll. Why are you guys there anyway? I can't figure this out. Congress has passed the FBI wiretap bill. This requires that wiretaps be pre-built into all phone switching equipment by October 28, 1998. So that the Justice Department can listen in on any phone conversation in America, sitting in their office, pressing some buttons. Let's see what Aaron Russo's saying today. Sons of... Then, the FBI asked for additional funding from Congress so they can tap into 1.5 million phones simultaneously. And when you tie that into H.R. 666, little nasty number there, they won't even need a court order. I think each of those freedom-loving members of Congress deserves a rectal adjustment. Now that's liberty! Almost everybody today is a criminal, according to the law. Let me explain. The federal code is over 1 million pages of fine print. It's been estimated that it would take 23,000 years to read. Okay? Yet, ignorance of the law is no excuse. We are responsible for all these laws. It's just a question of who and what law enforcement decides to focus on as to whether you go to jail, or you go to jail, or you go to jail. How does that make you feel? Well, if you're black, I guess you already know. I can't stand them. I mean, I can't stand them. Do you know there are more people in jail today in America than any other country in the world?
It's Aborigine.
And 70% of them are there for victimless crimes. How can you possibly have a crime if there isn't a victim? Idiots. spent a fortune. They spent a fortune trying to put Heidi Fleiss in jail. And yet, at the same time, they let out a rapist who's victimized over 200 women. When they asked the rapist if he was going to rape again, he replied,
"That is information that will come out in the watch eventually. So right now the cards are still in the air."
Well, thank God they got Heidi Fleiss off the streets. I feel so much safer. In goes Betty Crocker, out goes Jack the Ripper. It's insanity! It's insanity! In Washington, there are entire buildings that just hold books of rules and regulations. Big, big buildings full of bureaucrats whose job is making sure you and everyone else follow this endless stream of rules until we choke to death. Oh, they put so much pressure on us that we have heart attacks and die. Wait, do you think this is the government's way of subsidizing the medical profession? But Dr. Kessler of the FDA wants to subsidize not only the medical profession, but the drug companies as well, by outlawing vitamins. He wants you to get a prescription just to buy vitamins. Heil Kessler! Oh, did I say that? It must have been a vitamin C deficiency. But nothing to worry about. I have Social Security. Can you believe what they've done to Social Security? I mean, can you believe it? From a voluntary retirement plan, it's evolved into another mandatory tax. Have you ever heard of a retirement plan where the money is not in your name? And the custodian can spend it at his will? And you can't leave it to your heirs? And it's their way of keeping track of you to boot. Try running a private fund like that. And then there's the IRS. It really sucks.
All right, I'm gonna stop it right there. For those that don't know who that guy is, I'm gonna do it real quick. Russo was an American entertainer, businessman, film producer, director, political activist, turned political activist. He was best known for producing such movies as Trading Places, Wise Guys, and The Rose. He was an insider. He was one of their guys. He was considered rubbing shoulders with the elites. Aaron became an activist because he felt threatened. He felt the American freedom was threatened. Now, he was considered to be one of the guys that would have went along with it, right? Because he knew the rules. Then he became one of the, what you want to call them, I ain't gonna call him a snitch or nothing like that. He was a guy that was inside, and now he's telling all informations. So at first when he came out, I just thought maybe it was a ploy. Like, they wanted you to follow his message for something, for them to gain. But then when they murdered him, I said, oh, okay. So I just really start reviewing a lot of his shit, a lot of things that he was saying. Right. And this evidence, what I call it is evidence, because he was one of them. He pretty much stated a lot of shit and is mad as hell. He stated a lot of shit and a lot of things. But you study these guys to find their agenda, like Obama. You study these guys to figure out what's their agenda. And this was back in, when he did that, because he died in 2007. He did this before 9/11. I'm thinking this was before 9/11. Or it might have been right after. But he died in 2007. Well, he tried to sell a pilot for a television show called Aaron Russo's Mad as Hell in early 1990s. His final film was a documentary that he produced, wrote, and directed entitled Mad as Hell. Well, anyway, this FICA tax is pretty much the socialism tax that he was speaking of. You know, it's and it's a damn shame that it's still up there. I got it off of my shit back in 2000 when I noticed it came up on my checks. And it was easier to get up off of my checks back then. Talked to the payroll. She understood. She seen it come on, pop up. She understood my religion, even back then, right? It's a damn shame I have to explain myself nowadays more thoroughly. But this shit is highly illegal. to actually come up with a direct tax. A direct tax that will, from your labor. Any tax from your labor is considered, from my eye, unconstitutional. Period. Especially if you're Aborigine. Aborigine trumps. That's Indian health care. You understand? Which the Indian health care program, right? Federal construction of hospitals and infirmaries began in the early 1880s, originally to serve Indian boarding, which I go over here. Now, you have to understand, when they throw stuff in there like contagious diseases amongst Indian tribes, smallpox, vaccination, see, I understand the words that they're using, vaccination. When they saying vaccination, that means to me that they're trying to study, trying to infect. You feel what I'm saying? It's not helping. They're not trying to help. Vaccinations, contagious diseases. Now back then, our ancestors, was so strong and filled up with natural herbs to where like they was knocking those diseases off of them like fleas. Fleas trying to stay on a body that they don't normally stay on, like cats and dogs. Fleas jumping off of them like, I'm cool. I take a bite and take the fuck off. I don't like this shit. You feel what I'm saying? Because there's studies of Aborigine men laying down with Neanderthal women that has syphilis, gonorrhea, all kinds of shit, and that Aborigine man was not infected. Now you can Google these studies if you can find them, if they haven't snatched them off. But I'll put some up online so y'all can study them. But actually, these words, you have to look for code words when they talking. Now, the War Department was their first department, and it began in the 1800s. You understand? So 1776 is their political outline guide. They already had a strategy coming over here. Now, we had an organized government already. Trading, homes, everything you can think of already. Cities, beautiful. Already. We civilized these people. Helped them. Right? We had agreements of friendship. Right? Now, the wars that they wrote about, do you actually believe they are speaking truth? After the fact? You know what I'm saying? But healthcare was a big issue. It's a big issue. Still is a big issue. But the socialist plan, right, nowadays, is not responsible, pretty much, because they're snatching money from you and then stealing it, literally stealing it. They're not covering the funds, right? They're forcing you to cover the funds, and then something happens because you don't know the total amount that's needed. It would never work. The greed will always overcome, and they will steal it. 9/11. Where's them trillions? You know? That's just like simple questions, simple stuff. But the law from the 1800s, the Indians, which I don't even like that term, were free healthcare. And under what they got now going on is the Indian Health Services, which is here, indianhealthservices.gov. And that's them. That's their Indian Health Services. Foreigners. No Aborigine. They know the trickery that they did. The War Department going to the War Library of Congress that they still don't have online for you to view everything. Freedom, huh? Nah, they want you to pay for things that should be automatically viewed online easily. But they stopped that. But here's a color picture of Chief Yoholo Miko. He's a Creek chief. Now, that picture that they have of him, it doesn't look like a picture that I was shown of him. It's sort of, kind of. But he has a lot of mulatto features, which I had explained in a previous video how they did a coup on our structural system, on our nation, right? We only saw fit to help them build their nation because the alignment of friendship that is still on today. Boule. But they are not us. They don't represent us. Or they do not even qualify to represent us. Right? Now when you go to the Library of Congress War Department, and you request these documents, you have to request them, and they're going to ask for some money. Now you can go through the process of what is it called? It's your ancestral right to view all files, period. No pay, no fee, no nothing. You don't have to pay. Just claim your birthright. Claim who you are. It's just like your health care, your free health care. Claim your birthrights. Go through their little process bullshit. You know what I mean? Never submit no blood work. Your ancestors don't believe like that. Never have. They know exactly who you are. And that's always been what was said. That's why we got caught up in this paper genocide so strongly. And then mulattoes understood that, which we did, but we just didn't participate because we had our own structural nation, our own nation, which we still do. And they came up with their own entity tribes. Yeah, 5 civilized tribes on the recognized tribes, whatever you want to call them. But I had some things going on that I wanted to show you guys about this Indian Health Services. You know, this is not our health services at all. Now, we need to begin our own nation, our own health services, community health, locations, our headquarters. Can we have a bill just to start a headquarters? Just to begin a structural headquarters that we have set in place and funded for us, Aborigines, from the Aborigine Nation. We need to build, and that's the only way we can build, is to come together. We have a long way to go and a short amount of time to get this done, because a lot of us are at work as employees under the employer that are forced into a payroll tax. So they have to pay half of what you're paying. They have to pay a payroll tax at the end of the year, and they're taking, so what they say, half of that portion from the employees, which now the employers are known from the income tax scheme to always take majority of that tax from the employees, so they won't have to pay that tax at the end of that year anyway. That's how they're getting over on the income tax as the employer. They don't really pay taxes. They have y'all asses paying them. And they're doing the same thing with this FICA tax now. The same exact thing, to be assured. And it's not even refundable. And the trick is, you begin getting it when your retirement age. Your full benefit is received when your retirement age is at 66. So when you're 66 years old, that's when it starts. But they gonna be, man, they're killing you off way before 66. Way before 66. So, that right there is it's illegal. But then they have you paying this shit from the beginning of your work career to pay those that have went over the age or those that are disability while they stealing the rest of it. That's how the socialist plans always go work. And in effect, it doesn't work. It's corrupted. And that's why religion groups don't pay into it at all. It goes against their whole belief structure. And just like it goes against our belief structure. So you should do what you have to do to not be involved in this. You know, they have people filling out forms. What is it? 4061 and 4029 or 4361 and form 4029. It's pretty much some bullshit though, really. But for a person covered under an approved form 4029 or 4361, all self-employment income is no longer considered earned income for either of these IRS approved exemptions you indicate on the SE screen, form 4361 or form 4029 will print opposite self-employed tax on form 1040, line 57. Now, by filling out these forms, it's entering into a contract, period. See, that's what they don't tell you. That's why I don't normally fill out any of these forms at all. And when I do fill out them forms, I always box in my signature claiming that I've been forced to fill out this bullshit in order to proceed with my standings, like employment. You know, because some states is as is hiring, like being a worker type shit. Like I'm a property or some bullshit. And that's how they've been getting over, is going to the employer with all of these laws that they got. Like the federal insurance something act. What the fuck was that FICA bullshit? Federal insurance something. And it's not right. It's just a cover up. It's some shit that'll have your ass broke. And then they stole your money. You can't recover from your money. You can't claim or get your family's money that they have paid for years into the bullshit as Social Security, and they have died, and they have over $100,000 left into that program, and you can't even get that money for your loved ones, which is theirs. They always come up with something like something is half taxed before you get any. If they do give you some, they'll tax it again. Like what? Tax it, tax. Where do all these taxes come from? Direct tax and indirect tax. Who have the ability to even direct tax you? let's see. Because I had that up. Where is it at? Direct tax, indirect tax. I just had it up. Could have should just pop up, but they just making it harder. And now, see, now they put income tax as a direct tax when it's illegal. It's an unconstitutional tax. It has never been a proven direct tax. It can never be a direct tax because they can never say that that is a mandatory tax. It doesn't make any sense now. When you go back to, here, let's go back to this. Let's go to this. Yeah, let's go to this. Let's go to that. Tax fraud.
To understand why juries were finding innocent people guilty of not filing a tax return when there was no law requiring them to do so. So I went to talk to Marcy Brooks, a juror who used her common sense and did not allow the judge to railroad the jury into a guilty verdict.
He was being tried for 4 counts of not filing his income tax. And our question was, well, what is to decide? Either he did or he didn't. It never occurred to us that he might actually be innocent while at the same time not filing. In the federal government, it is not a felony not to file taxes. Finally, they said, okay, if we're going to get this guy, we're going to have to put it in the state. They called up the IRS agent, Agent Craner.
Craner? Yeah, Robert Craner. This is Ken Dory. He's also an investigator with the Illinois Department of Revenue.
This is a request for a copy of the delegation and authority order.
Right, and I talked to my boss about that, and he said that my badge is that.
Badge is the authority. I thought it had to be right.
The last question that the defense asked him was, did you write any of this down? And Agent Craner looked right at him and right at us, and he said, I never wrote anything down. And yet when we saw the video, there he was, writing notes, And so I'm thinking, okay, at this point, the judge is supposed to say, Agent Craner, it is clear that you have committed perjury. It wasn't even noticed. It finally came to the climax. Mr. Harrell looked right at the prosecutor, and he said, I will tell you the same thing I have told over and over again to government officials. You show me the law that requires me to file a tax return, and I'll be glad to do it.
And again, I ask, under what is the requirement that you file under part duty so? And the requirement under the regulations is what section? My question to you is, what particular act are we discussing here that I am liable to do these things that you claim I'm liable to do?
Your exact question would be again? Okay, what is the section that what? But I guess I'm still not understanding your question, Mr. Harrell.
Well, you must be familiar with what that you have the police powers to enforce.
The prosecutor absolutely ignored him. And he started slandering Mr. Harrell. Just started attacking his character. They're calling us tax cheats. They're calling us fanatics. They're calling us weirdos. I don't care what you call me, but I have one question. Where is the law? Show me the law.
They
let
locked
this turn into
Sarah
a
Pale
rational
Johnson
debate.
up.
Because if they
Locked
do,
her
they'll
up.
lose it. So they have to
shut
insult
up,
people and say it's
motherfucker.
frivolous.
We felt like that there was an overall
But do you
arrogance
know what she was
and
locked
that
up
they
for?
were railroading Mr. Carroll and wanting us to participate. Judge Coogan. He looked right at us and he said, "I will instruct the jury according to the law." We were sent to deliberation. The judge promised us that he would give us the law. And we looked, and it was not there. We wrote a note to the judge asking for a copy of the law. 10 minutes later, we get a note back. You have everything you need. But there was no law. And he had promised us. At that point, I felt betrayed. I felt like this man promised us the law, and that's what this whole thing is about, the law. We request it, and he still denies us the law.
Power is in your hand, jury.
Because there is no law. Remember, we're
law?
talking about the Illinois state law here.
Where's the
Okay,
law?
which is a law in Illinois.
So now they got the jury.
So we got out that law, and we read it several times,
all
and I
the
said,
jury.
okay, wait, you know, because they kept saying, but this is a law in Illinois. And I said, look at the beginning of it says, anyone required to file a federal income tax return is required to file an Illinois tax return. I said, if it is true that he's not required to file a federal return, then that nullifies the Illinois law. Two people, they kept saying, but he's going to get by with it. And I said, what is he getting by with but his rights? If there is no law, he's not breaking a law. He's just standing on his rights. Are we going to deny him that? That's when this one juror sat back and kind of rolled his eyes and he said, you mean we don't have to pay taxes? All of a sudden we realized that this trial was much bigger. And the ramifications of this trial were going to be so broad if it actually got out. I mean, it's like we had just discovered this great government secret. And so when we came out for the delivering of the verdict, the judge was, I'm sure, even at this point, I'm sure he still thought we would give a guilty verdict. And the reason I say that is because of the look on his face when the first not guilty was read. His face just turned white. I mean, it's like, I don't believe this. The second
To call my message machine.
Hi, this message is for Aaron Russo. This is Anthony Burke at the Internal Revenue Service. Let me suggest some people that you might want to think about talking to. One would be Don Alexander, who's a former commissioner who's here in town in Washington. Another would be Sheldon Cohen, who is both a former commissioner and former chief counsel. All those guys, I think, can answer your question about, where in the tax law it says that you have to pay taxes.
Wow, good news, I thought. So I called Sheldon Cohen because he used to be the IRS commissioner. He wrote the tax code, and he was also general counsel to the IRS. He is a true expert, and I couldn't find a better person to answer my questions. He graciously agreed to my interview. The reason I'm doing this documentary is because there are many people in America today who believe that there's no law that requires them to pay an income tax or file a 1040. And there are many people going to jail for it, fighting over it.
The Internal Revenue Code is authorized by the 16th Amendment.
I think it should be clarified. I think government should be transparent to the people. Why doesn't the IRS commissioner sit down with them and just explain it in clear English? Why?
I don't think they really care.
And why does the IRS code say it's voluntary to comply, not mandatory?
That's a word euphemism we use. We use voluntary compliance when we talk about traffic signals. Most people at 2 o'clock in the morning, do you stop at a red light?
Yeah.
Is there a cop there?
Sometimes I don't.
Well, I do, and most of us do. Most of us do.
Right.
But that's voluntary compliance.
That was a complete perversion of logic. Traffic laws state that it is mandatory to stop at a red light. The IRS code says it's voluntary to comply. Mandatory and voluntary are the complete opposite of each other. Yet he wants us to believe that they mean the same thing. So can the government criminally prosecute somebody of information put on their 1040?
Yes.
Right, so doesn't that violate the Fifth Amendment?
No.
But the Fifth Amendment says I don't have to do anything that incriminates myself.
Well, it doesn't incriminate you to put your income down.
But you said before I can be put in jail for it. The commissioner wants us to believe that although the IRS demands that you fill out the 1040 and you can go to jail for it, that they are not violating your Fifth Amendment rights of self-incrimination. That is absurd. Isn't it true that the word income is not defined anywhere in the Internal Revenue Code?
The law says that the government has a right to tax income from any source derived.
So, but the word income is not defined in the code. It just says income without a definition
That's right.
of what income is.
That's right.
Correct?
Yeah.
But there are many different kinds of taxes. Well, how can an American citizen know what income is if the code doesn't define it? If they're paying an income
Because
tax...
the courts will define it.
Do you remember what constitutional attorney Edwin Vieira said?
The definition of income in the Constitution was given in the Eisner versus McCumber case, and it turns on gains or profits that are made from some activity.
So the Supreme Court has ruled income is not wages, it's not labor, it's gain from corporate activity. I believe that a man's labor is his private property.
That's your view, but it's not the law.
The Supreme Court's even said your labor is your private property. When I go to work for somebody, it's a trade. It's an even exchange. I do some work, you give me some money.
Right. Anything else is slavery.
The Kusheba case and the Stanton case.
That's what they're doing.
The Stanton case
Extortion.
said that the 16th Amendment
Fucking worse than
gave the government
slavery.
no new taxing power.
Fucking thieves.
I'm not going to argue the niceties of that with you.
And it came up again in a case called Peck versus Lowe, where the Supreme Court said the 16th Amendment did not extend Congress's taxing power to any new or accepted subjects. In other words, if you weren't taxable before the 16th, you weren't taxable after the 16th.
Today I interviewed a juror. Okay, who sat on a case. And
Aborigines was never taxable before the 16th Amendment, and they ain't taxable now
they found him not guilty.
at all.
And she said because the IRS couldn't show us the law that made him liable to file a 1040.
All they need to do, if there is a law, is to show us the law. Which, of course, they never
Because
did.
that's how they come to
And the
it.
reason they didn't do it was
16th
why-
Amendment allow
There
us
is
to.
no law.
Well, the 16th Amendment it doesn't
Doesn't
apply to
Title
me.
26 have to be in compliance with the Supreme Court decisions?
You're going to take a 1920
Shit
case
doesn't
and
apply to
superimpose
me.
it on the whole Internal Revenue Code that was written after it? No, that's not.
I can't believe what I just heard.
Next.
Rewind.
You're going to take a 1920 case and superimpose it on the whole Internal Revenue Code that was written after it? No, that's not.
Remember he said earlier the Internal Revenue Code was authorized by the 16th Amendment?
The Internal Revenue Code is authorized by the 16th Amendment.
Remember, the Supreme Court said the 16th Amendment did not give the government any new taxing power. These decisions have never been overturned. Let's listen further. Can the lower courts overrule the Supreme Court?
No.
How are they putting people in jail today for not paying a tax on their labor when the Supreme Court said they don't have to? Doesn't the IRS code have to be in compliance with the Supreme Court?
Volunteering to go to
This
jail.
is a waste of time.
Well, let me
Because
just...
whatever I say, you're not going to believe.
He's right. I don't believe him. And neither should you. He wants us to believe we should obey the IRS code, which is being enforced in violation of the many Supreme Court decisions. If the Supreme Court made a decision...
Thank you, Aaron. I think we're finished.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cohen, you're doing that.
Well, I'm sorry that you constantly re-argue the point. You're liable because the law says that you're liable, and the courts say the law says you're liable, and that's why you're liable.
You see, he's talking about the lower courts, who are not in compliance with the Supreme Court, as they have to be. Doesn't the court have to be in compliance with the Supreme Court?
The Supreme Court has so held.
Where?
You caught me unprepared.
I'll come back.
Well, I don't want to do that.
But let me ask you a hypothetical question.
No. You're making silly arguments here.
Why is the Supreme Court decision a silly argument?
Well, because it's inapplicable.
That made my heart stop. He just said Supreme Court decisions do not apply to the IRS. That's the behavior you would expect from a totalitarian country, maybe China or Russia or Cuba. Not from America. They're just making up the law as they go along. Now I knew the tax honesty movement was right. The IRS thrives
Google
on
the tax honesty
fear,
movement
not by law.
and
It's
check
no
out
different than a criminal
and
protection
download
racket.
what they
Using
submitted
force
to the
to
courts
extract your money from
that
you.
they
Then the
never
former
answered.
IRS commissioner,
The IRS
now
never
working at a
answered.
prestigious Washington law
And
firm, threatens
they
me.
never will.
Watch.
Aaron, you understand Yiddish.
Download that.
For those of you who don't understand Yiddish, that means nothing
The
will
tax honesty movement.
Now it all became clear. I understood why the IRS wouldn't go on camera and talk about where the law was. I understood why all the senators I called refused to be interviewed. There is no law. And now you know what our political leaders and the courts have known for decades and have tried to cover up. The United States Constitution strictly forbids a direct, unapportioned tax on the wages and salaries of American citizens. The
It
United
does.
States Supreme Court has consistently ruled that the income tax is a tax on profits and gains, not on labor and wages. On behalf of the American people, I challenge the IRS to show me a statute that allows a direct, unapportioned tax on the wages and labor of the American people. And if I'm wrong, I will give my most humble apologies to the IRS. If the IRS is wrong, and there is no law, then every person who's been jailed should be let out of jail immediately, and any assets seized should be returned to their rightful owners. If this is a nation of laws and a free country, then the IRS should show the law to the American people.
Some good shit. Good shit. It's the truth, though. It is the truth. Rock with the truth. Direct taxes. And he is right. They threaten that man's life, though. That's another talk. The direct tax levy. Well, to sum it up, to conclude this long video, there was a lot of chiefs, mulatto chiefs, that was corrupted, if you want to say that, and enter into policies and pretty much as it's doing today, as you seeing today, with the corruption level of the policies that's becoming so-called law that the people of the public have to follow. It was the same back then. Our structural system, government, is a free system. It's a free government to free people, to have the freedom to move, the freedom to think, the freedom to act. Always, it's been simple. And the reason why I'm stating that is because I'm just repeating what Mama always told me. Oh no, you treat others with respect. You treat others as you would want to always be treated, no matter if they don't know no better or not. You show them better. And that's how I live my life. I show people better, a better way. You don't have to be mean and evil towards people that is evil and disrespectful. You can say hi and smile at them as they've been disrespectful and just walk away. Smile. Say you have a blessed day. Yah, Ra will bless you. Or you could say have a blessed day. But we need to spread more of the spiritual positivity, peace around the world. Again, because this negative vibe and dismoral acts are taking over. It seems like that's what it is in the media constantly. Is negativity. There's always a way for peace in your heart. You can smile, hug a person, shake a man's hand, really listen to that man to understand what that man is going through, or woman. Because this nation needs us, the original people, to step up. So the way that we step up is we have to organize to respect our ancestors enough to know who you are, the power you do have, the authority of this land. Excuse me. You have the authority of this land to do so. Protect this land. Enrich this land with your spiritual spirit of your ancestors to guide you in a direction I will engrave you to become who you should be, who you was meant to be. And that's great. Because without us, many will starve. Many will go hungry. Many will die off. We've always led without even knowing that you led. So just think about that. Help someone that looks like you. Help someone that don't look like you. Just get that feeling of helping. You understand? And participate, give, build in the right direction. Because we need a structural system for ourselves to build. If one of us gets sick, who do we turn to? If one of us is hurt by another, who do we turn to? If a crime happened into our house, who do we turn to? See, these are the answers, or the questions that we need answers. And we have the right to build our own nation up again and make it great as it was. Okay, it's been a blessing talking to you guys. Excuse me. It's been a blessing talking to you guys. I'm gonna try to do this every day or every other day or however many times I can. But you stay touching another's heart, and I'll try to